this is now 3 audience members. Legally speaking, we are now required to do the panel.
All right.
Looks like we're doing this.
No.
Gregory,
Yeah, you stay here, brother. If you, at any point in time, want to contribute as a audience member, the microphone is yours.
Microphone is all yours in case you want to do it. But yeah, since we have people in the audience, might as well go for the panel legitimately. So welcome to the Works of Naoki Urasawa. I am Bossman Reviews. I'm an anime, manga, and visual novel YouTuber, and one of the main focuses of my channel is on the works of Naoki Urasawa, especially his lesser-known works. That's a big part of the content that I cover on YouTube. Just exactly as I just said, anime, manga, and YouTuber. I've been a fan of Urasawa's works for a good 7 years now, so it's been quite some time. My first work of his was Monster, and that was a heck of a work to be my first Urasawa manga. And once I started with his writing, I just became absolutely enthralled with his work and pretty much went through his entire bibliography. You can check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@bassman.reviews, just over there. So we'll first start off with an overview of Urasawa's career and how he actually became a mangaka, because he didn't intend on becoming a mangaka originally. He actually had a job, he went to university for economics, and he intended on just getting a normal, regular job. And one day, he was applying for a role with an editorial company, and just out of simple curiosity, he brought over his manga manuscript, since when he was a child, and ever since then, he'd just been doodling manga on the side, and just on a whim, he submitted it, and by pure accident, he ended up becoming a mangaka. And to this day, he is one of the best-selling mangaka of all time. His works are some of the best-received manga of all time, and he's received so many different awards, both domestically within Japan and internationally, for all sorts of different manga prizes. Very notably, he is the only person to have ever won the Osamu Tezuka Cultural Prize multiple times. That has never ever happened with any other individual in the history of manga. So now I'll go over into his general bibliography. So he started off with an 8-page one-shot titled Beta. It is published in a short story collection called NASA, along with 9 other short stories that he wrote early on in his career. It is a very absurdist sort of story. You can find it pretty easily online about, I can't think of any way to describe it. You're just going to have to read those 8 pages for yourself. It's nothing particularly special, but it was the start to what became an incredible career for Naoki Urasawa. His first serialization, I would say, was Dancing Policeman, which he wrote from 1984 to 1987, which follows these stories surrounding this very perverted policeman who ends up solving a number of different cases. It's very comedic in its nature, nothing truly special, but it was a pretty significant stepping stone to how Urasawa's career eventually progressed. His next work, which was his first long-running serialization, was Pineapple Army. He wasn't the writer for Pineapple Army, he just illustrated it. The writing was done by Kazuya Kudo, and it ended up lasting a good 8 volumes. Do you have anything to say about Pineapple Army?
Yes, I would like to add, Pineapple Army is a pretty solid read for the time that it came out. Again, most of the work that was done by the illustrator for Naoki, it was his just drawings. However, the story itself holds up, and it is a unique experience, at least to try out. Again, for the time that it came out, it has aged quite a bit, but it is a good read.
Mm-hmm. Centers a lot around the traumas associated with warfare. especially for the time period that it was written, it was pretty significant. So even though it's not written by Urasawa, I would still give Pineapple Army a read. Now, the first long-running serialization that Urasawa both wrote and illustrated was Yawara, which I would argue is his most influential manga of all time. It completely transformed the attitudes that people all across Japan had towards women in sports and in martial arts. It is, to this day, his second best-selling manga of all time. It has a massive 124 episode long anime adaptation with a 90-minute TV special finale, so it's completely been adapted. All 331 chapters of the manga have been adapted. This manga follows this young judo prodigy named Inokuma Yawara, and she absolutely despises judo because she's been groomed into it and just wants to live her life, in her own words, as a normal girl. So to be very feminine, have a feminine job, to fall in love, like all the traditionally girly things, is the way that she wants to live her life. But slowly but surely, she comes to appreciate the value that being in sports and martial arts can really bring to the world, and how much joy it can bring to those around her and also to her herself. So I think Yawara it's a fantastic series. It's kind of like, if I had to describe it, it's almost like Urasawa writing a Rumiko Takahashi type of series. And if you ever look at some of the advertising for Rumiko Takahashi's older series, a lot of the time they are advertised together with Yawara because they were handled by the same production committee at a certain point in time. But they're very similar in sort of vibe. So this is, again, a status quo rom-com, but it is filled with a whole lot of heart, and it has a fantastic endgame. Really, really big fan of Yawara. Now, his next series that he started serializing at the same time as Yawara was one that ended up surprising me, and honestly completely changed the direction of my life. So Master Keaton is an episodic series revolving around this man of multiple different talents and multiple different career paths. He is an insurance investigator, a scholar, a former military man, and yet, despite everything that he ends up doing, he feels as though his true calling in life is with his scholarly work, even though that's the work that goes the poorest. He wants to prove the existence of this ancient civilization at the basin of the Danube River in Romania. And that's been his entire dream, but he is someone who is well into his 30s and is still figuring out who exactly he is, switching from career to career, and being such a multifaceted person. The end game has words that completely flipped my world upside down, because he's half British, half Japanese, constantly on the move from place to place. And his words towards the end of the story, there's a line that he says along the lines of, "Now I have realized that everywhere I have been has made me who I am, and now I am here. I'm someone who's lived in a number of different, as of this month, I will have lived in 11 cities, 6 countries, and 4 continents. So for me, it was something that hit very, very close to home. And it was reading that line that actually made me want to move yet again. Master Keaton it's an episodic series, so it might not have the same appeal as his longer running serializations, but it is still filled with a whole lot of heart. And you can definitely see that a lot of core concepts that were built in Master Keaton ended up becoming, I guess, the base for what was eventually explored in Monster. Master Keaton does have a 39 episode long anime adaptation. However, it is not a complete adaptation. It adapts select stories. So really, it's only about 30% of the manga or so that 39 episode adaptation actually covers. It's a great adaptation, but it's not complete. So if you want the full story, definitely go through the manga. One interesting thing of note, however, is that the authorship behind Master Keaton is a subject of tremendous controversy. Originally, Urasawa was only illustrating the series, even though he was the one who brought forth the idea of it from the very beginning. And so the writer was Bokusei Katsushika, and also credited was Takashi Nagasaki, who was Urasawa's longtime editor, and who later collaborated with him on various other works. However, midway through the series, Urasawa starts getting writing credits because apparently there were huge conflicts between Katsushika and Urasawa and Nagasaki surrounding creative decisions, which ultimately led to a point by which at the tail end of the series, the only person writing it was Urasawa. So it's a little bit unclear who wrote which story in Master Keaton, but I would say it still has the heart and soul of an Urasawa series, even if he didn't write all of it. Next up is Happy, which is actually Urasawa's personal favorite of his own works, though not the most popular pick in the English-speaking world for when you ask people what their favorite Urasawa manga is. So Happy is basically the inverse of a series like Yawara. Yawara is a girl that's cheered on by the entire world, even though she doesn't like the sport. Happy follows a girl who is in a life of complete destitute, just lives with her siblings, has three little kids to take care of. Her parents have passed away, and her older brother gets into a massive debt with a bunch of Yakuza loan sharks. And with the brother having disappeared, the loan sharks come after the protagonist, Miyuki, and basically force her into a life of prostitution to make back that 250 million yen debt that she needs to repay. But on TV, she suddenly sees an advertisement for the prize money of a tennis tournament. And so she decides to, in order to escape that life of prostitution, to become a professional tennis player. And this series is absolutely grueling, and it really hurts to read, with the conditions of poverty that she and her siblings live in, their experiences with homelessness, and yet, despite all the hardship that they go through, how, you're still able to be happy. It's a little ironic what the title of the series is, when it's happy despite definitely being the most depressing of Urasawa's stories, but it is incredibly meaningful, and I think the last third of the manga has some of the highest highs I've seen from any Urasawa story. It is truly special, and I do wish that this was adapted into an anime, since as a sports manga, it would benefit a lot from animation the same way that Yawara did, though with its darker subject matter, I'm not too surprised that it didn't end up happening. It does have two live action TV specials that are each like an hour and 40 minutes long, but those, of course, do not cover the entire manga, so you couldn't possibly go through all of Happy in live action form.
This sounds very interesting. Is this fully translated and available to buy off of publishing here in Canada?
So it is fully fan translated, but it is not officially translated in English. It is officially translated in French if you wanted to read it.
Oh, okay, wait a minute, saved. Yes.
This works. We are in Montreal.
Yeah, so you can read the entire series officially in French. Yes?
I come from America and I can't read French, so.
Yeah, so you would have to read the fan translation, the English fan translation. It's fully fan translated. Well, it's not official, but you can go through the entire series in English, as a lot of people have. So that is an option that is available. And I think Happy is a very criminally underrated Urasawa work. It's very hard to read, given how repeatedly the protagonist gets screwed over by the world to a point that it's comical and frustrating at the same time, but it does lead somewhere that will move you to tears probably. It's a very polarizing Urasawa work, but it's Urasawa's own favorite out of everything that he's written, and I really, really liked Happy. So after I guess once he started Happy and finished up Master Keaton, he started up a manga that he'd been wanting to write for a very, very long time. Back when he was pitching the ideas of Yawara, he wanted to do a manga set in the medical world. However, the editors did not like that idea and did not think that a manga in the medical world would sell well at all. So he pivoted towards a women's sports manga, which was still transformative, but not as outrageous in the views of the editors. Monster was his attempt of revisiting some of those initial ideas and making what is probably in the West his best known work, even though it is not his best selling work internationally. Monster follows this Japanese brain surgeon living in Düsseldorf, Germany, who has a career that's going super well and great, and is one day confronted by a woman, the widow of a man that the protagonist, Dr. Tenma, was supposed to operate on, with her blaming him for not operating on him and instead operating on someone that the hospital had deemed was a higher priority individual to save. And it really hits him hard that, are all lives truly equal, or are some lives worth more than others? One day he is faced in another sort of situation wherein he is given the choice between saving a young boy who has been shot in the head versus a professional singer, and that would have given the hospital tremendous publicity in the event that they saved the singer's life. But he decides to do the opposite of what he did last time, and instead saves the life of the little boy because he came in first, and in his view, all lives are created equal. However, it turns out, many years later, that this young boy is a serial killer and is responsible for the deaths of so many different people, including those in the hospital that had tried to ruin the protagonist, Dr. Tenma's career after he had defied orders and saved the life of the little boy. Now he is on a hunt to find this serial killer whose life he had saved many years ago, and hunt him down while he himself is on the run from the police, who believe the protagonist to actually be the perpetrator behind all of these crimes across Germany. It is an absolute ride. It is based off of the 60s British TV show called The Fugitive, with some elements sprinkled in of Frankenstein's monster and also Astro Boy, in Urasawa's own words, as for what his main sources of inspiration were. For Monster, it is my favorite fictional work of all time, and my favorite Urasawa work by default. It has a 74-episode long anime adaptation, which is extremely faithful to the source, very well produced, very well adapted. There is supposed to be a live-action series in the works by Guillermo del Toro. He has pitched a live-action adaptation several times, and Monster is a series that could probably work quite well in live-action if it was given the right direction, the right episode count, the right resources. I think it could work well, and if it does happen someday, I would love to see this, but you can't go wrong with either the manga or the anime.
There's one thing I would like to add here, and it is just a point to you, my good friend. And that is that throughout manga history, I've been somebody who's been a part of manga for a very long time. Manga's made a very large part of my life, and a lot of what we're speaking of here today has made a huge impact because all of these works, and as you'll see as we go further into the future or into the next couple slides, all of them leave something behind with you. And one thing that I love to bring up whenever Monster is ever brought up is that Monster, just looking at its antagonist, if you were to focus solely on some of the greatest antagonists fiction has ever made, you could ask that question to 100 people in a room, and at least 60 of them would tell you Johan. And the biggest thing that I love to share about that is that when people compare other antagonists, there's always something they have. But when people try to tell you about Johan, you have to sit down because they don't even know where to begin. But it's something in that complexity that the fact that it's withstood the test of time to this point is a beautiful, in my opinion, is a beautiful example of what Monster is in its whole. It's a series where this tale is one that will take you in places you could never even imagine, and yet through it all you can't help but just watch and wonder. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I second those sentiments entirely, because Johann Liebert, the antagonist of Monster, is someone I don't even know how to begin to explain. He is just an unbelievably well-written character, well-written antagonist. And by the end of the series, you're just going to be left in complete awe as to what you just went through. Monster is a one of a kind. My favorite Urasawa work for good reason. However, there is a sequel to Monster called Another Monster, which is one light novel volume. It's from the perspective of an investigator who, uncovers all of these links surrounding the cases with Johann and what had happened, and it provides a lot of new insights to the story of Monster that the original manga doesn't make explicit. So it is very useful for better understanding the story of Monster. From that standpoint, there is a fan translation of Another Monster available, even though it's not officially translated, but you can read the entirety of it in English. So the next series is a compilation of different short stories that Urasawa wrote throughout his career, starting in 1995 and going all the way up until 2018, and that is Kushami, or Sneeze. And the thematic core behind this collection of short stories is short extrications of breath, in the words of Urasawa, hence the title Sneeze. There's some really, really funny stories within this one. I think my favorite of these would be the first one, Damian. It almost feels like it would be Urasawa's take on Mob Psycho 100. It's really, really cool, and even though it's like just a really short one shot, I think it hits pretty well. Another highlight from this collection is a mangafied version of a real story surrounding a band, which is absolutely crazy that it happened in real life, but he depicts it very well in Sneeze as part of the collection of short stories. Next up is Urasawa's best-selling manga of all time, and also, in my view, one of his most misunderstood works of all time, that being 20th Century Boys, a work that was written at the cusp of the 21st century, a work that could have only been written at the time that the work was conceived. This, I don't even know where the hell to begin with describing the premise of 20th Century Boys, because it is absolutely batshit insane. Like, imagine you as a kid are playing with all sorts of other kids your age, come on in, and you make all of these stories that you have with your friends, right? All these make-believe fantasies. But it so turns out that many, many years later, somehow those fantasies have become reality. And behind it all is this enigmatic figure known as Friend, who is the leader of this cult, seemingly behind the murder of one of the group's key friends, who they nickname Donkey, who is made to believe to have committed suicide, but is actually murdered by this cult. But what exactly is going on with this cult, and why the hell does everything with this cult come back to all of these kids' childhood fantasies. It is an absolute ride of a story, and one that is what a lot of people would consider to be Urasawa's magnum opus. That's what a lot of people do consider. It's one of my favorite Urasawa stories. I still like a couple of his works a little bit more than 20th Century Boys, but it is his best-selling manga of all time for a good reason. It also has a live-action adaptation which became extremely popular back in the day. I wouldn't recommend going through the live-action adaptation instead of the manga, but it can be a very good supplement, especially the ending of the third movie. The scripts for the live-action adaptation was still done by Naoki Urasawa and Tomoshi Nagasaki. So there's some details revealed in the films that actually are true of the manga as well, even if not explicitly depicted. And that's something that I would want to discuss with 21st Century Boys, which is the 2-volume sequel or finale to 20th Century Boys. Years down the line, they re-released 20th Century Boys and 21st Century Boys in what was called the Perfect Edition or Kanzenban, which had a considerably revised ending, which became a lot more in line with the ending of the live-action adaptation, which in Urasawa's view was always the true ending of the series. It has a massive twist surrounding the identity of the main villain of 20th Century Boys that people will not get if they have not read the Perfect Edition, and completely flips your understanding of everything you understood about the series. However, it was always unambiguously intended by Urasawa. The reveals that are in the Perfect Edition, he has confirmed this in interviews both before and after the release of the Perfect Edition. And if you go back and reread all of 20th Century Boys and 21st Century Boys with the context of the Perfect Edition's ending in mind, it'll become increasingly more evident that that twist was definitely always what was planned, even if it was not made explicit in the original manga alone. Do you have anything to add on to that?
There's genuinely nothing that you can add to 20th and 21st Century Boys. How do you begin to start? There's so much that you could talk about 20th Century Boys and again, the ending for 21st Century Boys. In my opinion, humble as it is, 20th Century Boys is like, best way I can put it is exactly as you mentioned earlier. You could only have written that in 1999, because just the sheer concept of it to this day, creatively, impossible. I can't even begin to understand how you build towards that. There are creatives. We have creatives in this world, but thinking that you can get to 20th Century Boys off of Monster as your last release is such a curveball that if I'm the editor, I've done editing professionally as both a writer and as an editor for novels published. If I'm the editor and I saw that manuscript and I saw who handed it to me with their track record, I don't even know where I'd begin. I might lose my mind, because that is what 20th Century Boys is you just have to, whatever you're reading, you just have to accept it. And it only builds to what, in my opinion, may very well be Urasawa's, like we mentioned, magnum opus. 20th Century Boys is a read. A lot of people, if you can get past, the age of it and the art style, you will love. I don't think that there is a recommendation more perfect to open it with 20th Century Boys. It is a beautiful start.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that Urasawa wrote both Monster and 20th Century Boys at the same time. And once he finished Monster, not too long afterwards, he started serializing another manga alongside 20th Century Boys, which was pretty much just as good. And that being Pluto, which is my second favorite Urasawa manga behind Monster. Pluto is a reimagining of The Greatest Robot on Earth from Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy, one of the most beloved arcs from the series, and one that had a very firm pacifist and anti-war message, praying for the day that one day all this pointless conflict that happens between people will come to an end. And It's completely reimagined from top to bottom, heavily fleshed out compared to the 107 pages in the original version of the Greatest Robot on Earth, and it's told through the perspective of a character that only appears in 7 pages in the original version of the arc. So Gazith is the new protagonist of Pluto, and an absolutely fantastic character and protagonist for that matter. I have made a Gazith character analysis on my YouTube channel. I just had to do it. Love the guy. He's a truly fantastic character overall. And Pluto is very unique in the context of Urasawa's wider bibliography in that it's one of his dark mystery series, but it's only 8 volumes long. Most of Urasawa's works are very, very long running, like at least 18 volumes long, typically over 160 chapters or so. Pluto is nowhere near as long, and yet it is just as good as his longer running works. It also has a phenomenal anime adaptation that was produced by Studio M2, which was in development for over 11 years. It took a very, very long time for them to adapt Pluto into an anime, but they got the job done, and it is a fantastic adaptation. You can't go wrong with either the manga or the anime, though I have a personal preference of, that the anime is a little bit better because it does make some changes and additions to the story that clarify a lot of things that needed clarification in the original manga, but you really can't go wrong with either version of the story.
I have a small little story I want to share here on the topic of Pluto because of how instrumental it's been in my life, actually. So originally, I joined during COVID a manga club that was ran entirely online from my university. And at the time, we were just going through old classics. It was me and a friend of mine, or not really a friend. I actually got to know him through the club. And because around COVID, nobody showed up, it was just him and I. And we just shot manga back and forth through each other. And then 2 more guys joined, and they were just as weird as we were. And we all just started reading manga together, just 4 guys. Pick up manga every week or every other week, and we go at it. Pluto was the first manga that we collectively decided to, okay, we're going to finish this. We're not going to pick up 2 chapters, or like, we do maybe 2 volumes. And I go, next one, no, Pluto we decided to finish, and I'll tell you why. The first 2 volumes of Pluto are so incredible that I promise you, when we met after the week, we had a 2-week to read. When we met on that second week, we all blew past our limit for reading and had gone into the next volume because it is such an incredible read. To this day, those guys are some of my closest friends. They're like family to me, and that wouldn't be possible without Pluto. And I can assure you that if you give at least the first 2 volumes a shot, you won't be putting it down until you're done up to the 8th volume. It's a fantastic read.
Yeah, it truly is. I guess we haven't really talked about the premise of Pluto beyond it being an adaptation or reimagining of the Greatest Robot on Earth. But basically, this story follows this series of robot murders and murders for major robot supporters, wherein at each of these murder sites, there's the set of horns that are left at each site. And you're left wondering whether these are being committed by a human or a robot. And this is in a world very much like Astro Boy's, wherein robots are programmed explicitly to never harm a human being. So if the murders are being committed by robots, what exactly does that mean about existence? It delves into like very interesting questions, especially in today's world where the proliferation of AI has only increased. It has only just become increasingly more rampant. It's also a commentary on U.S. military intervention in the Middle East. So This was written around the time of the Iraq War, and it's a lot of its commentary is still very relevant today for all sorts of geopolitical conflicts that are taking place worldwide. And you just can't help but think that this story that is based off of something, from the 1960s and 1970s, the same core message of it, the same core ideas explored by it, they're relevant throughout so many different time periods. And that's one aspect of Pluto that always has me coming back to it. It's a really, really special story that you absolutely must check out. Towards the end of Urasawa's time working on Pluto, he started writing another absolutely batshit insane manga called Billy Bat, which was very much like 20th Century Boys, in the sense that I don't even know where the hell to begin with describing how this manga even works, or how exactly I describe its premise, right? There is this, you follow this Japanese-American comic artist, right? And he, firmly believes that, comics have the power to change the world, have the power to teach people so many important lessons. But he finds out that apparently the comic that he's writing, the character, the Billy Bat, seems to have been written and drawn by someone else before. And so he searches for whoever drew the bat before him. And it turns out that that person wasn't the first one either. All throughout human history, there has always been this crazy, mysterious bat. And one day, this bat starts talking to the protagonist, Kevin Yamagata. And it takes the story in absolutely insane directions across so many different time periods, centering around this bat. But at its core, Billy Bat is a story that is about the power of art. And I think out of all of Urasawa's series, this might be his most personal work from what he's ever written. 20th Century Boys is, in his words, 10% autobiographical. But in terms of Urasawa's own sensibilities as a creator, I would argue that Billy Bat might be his most personal work that he's ever written.
It takes a lot to surprise me. Going over Naoki Urasawa's works is always, you gotta go into it with an open mind. You open up one of those, you see his name attached to any type of media, and you just gotta be like, okay, what are we in for this time? But Billy Bat took it to a level I didn't think he still had in him. It's kind of like that experience when you find out your goat still has it. That's what Billy Bat was to me. I was very, very surprised that there were moments, even beyond 20th Century Boys and what I've already experienced with this author, that would still catch me off guard. Pluto, for what it's worth, I find Pluto to be, while a fantastic read and mystery, a mystery that could be followed and understood. There were moments when Billy Bat, I was reading the manga and I was so confused because I didn't know what I was reading. And yet, like Wasserman has said, it felt so personal. You could feel different aspects of the author in these moments, different stories he was trying to tell of his own experience as an artist and as a writer in what Billy Bat was trying to portray. And that connection isn't something that you can, at least personally, I know we brought up that 10% of it was in 20th Century Boys. I really feel like Billy Bat is the personification of it, because you can't feel that feeling of connection between the author and any of his other works as well as you can with Billy Bat.
Yeah, well said. It is an absolutely fantastic manga, and just recently got an English release, which I was in absolute shock seeing that, because of the subject matter of what the manga covers. I was under the impression that most manga publishers would hold off on publishing Billy Bat. Yet Kana had decided to publish Billy Bat in English, and it's now started to release in English. The entire series was long since fully translated into French officially, so yeah, you can read it both in English and in French now. Absolutely special series, and truly one of a kind. Now, we discussed Master Keaton a little bit earlier. Master Keaton had a sequel called Master Keaton Remaster that he made well after having finished the original series. And the reason for it was because of the aforementioned creative conflicts behind the three authors of the original Master Keaton. And in the aftermath of the Tohoku earthquake, Urasawa wanted to create, he wanted to revive Master Keaton to uplift people's spirits, and also because he wanted to take the story in ways that he couldn't because of obligations that he had, having not been the complete author of the original Master Keaton. So Master Keaton Remaster takes place a good 20 years after the end of the original series. It is just one volume long, each chapter having its own self-contained story. But I do think it's a very nice addition to the overall narrative of Master Keaton. And again, Master Keaton itself it's one of Urasawa's best-selling manga of all time for a reason, sold just about as well as Monster has. Just a shame it's not as well known in the English-speaking world as some of his other works.
That's what you're here for, man.
Yes. This is a manga that I'm also a little bit surprised got published in English, because Urasawa was very hesitant about this manga getting an English translation. So this manga is a collaboration between Urasawa and the Louvre Museum in Paris, centering around this story about how this family, incomplete, destitute, is sent on this journey to try and temporarily steal Johannes Vermeer's The Lace Maker from the Louvre, temporarily make it go missing, and then profit off of black market sales of fakes that are available for sale, before returning the painting back to the Louvre itself. Now, the antagonist of this manga is an American presidential candidate who wants to build a wall and make the Mexicans pay for it. And that is why I'm very surprised it got an English translation, and it is probably Urasawa's boldest manga. Throughout his entire bibliography, he has always had a very humanist message behind all of his works, that all people are equal regardless of any sort of superficial differences, like the color of their skin, your gender, whatever it might be. And Mujirushi, in a lot of ways, also feels both like a culmination of those aspects of his bibliography, while also being sort of like a thematic sequel, or spiritual successor, I should say, to Billy Bat, since this again is about the life-changing power of art. So this is a one-volume long read. It is officially translated in English. You can read it real nice and quick. Probably not the strongest of Urasawa's works, but it is very bold, and I would recommend giving it a read if you can. Now, this is Urasawa's ongoing serialization, and one of my personal favorites of everything he has ever written, that being Asadora. It is, once again, another Urasawa story with a girl protagonist. He hasn't had one properly for a very long time, so it was very refreshing to see him go back to having a girl protagonist. And oh my goodness, it is again like a culmination of everything you've ever seen from his career. It combines the elements of his sports romance manga, like Yawara and Happy, but also the batshit insanity of something like Billy Bat. It centers around this girl who loses her entire family in the Isseiwan typhoon wherein she also gets kidnapped during the typhoon. And then she and the kidnapper have to work together to survive the aftermath of the typhoon. And during that whole fallout, she steals an airplane and pilots it to try and save the lives of as many people as she can. But as it turns out, the reason for the typhoon is a kaiju. And yeah, this series is completely insane, and it really pains me that it's on hiatus so frequently, and it releases like less than 7 chapters a year. But it is truly special as a series, and I can't wait to see more of it. It is really one of a kind, and I think if there was one Urasawa work that I could possibly recommend to be someone's first Urasawa work, Asadora would be one of them, because it combines so many different elements that you see throughout his entire bibliography, from his dark mysteries to his more lighthearted rom-coms. It is everything Urasawa in one manga. And now is the upcoming manga by Urasawa that is supposed to start later this month. It is called The Final Manga Classroom, and it is pretty much, as is described, about the literal final manga classroom in an AI-driven world wherein AI art has taken over everything, and people no longer see any point in like the hard work of manual illustration and the artwork that goes into there. This is sort of his attempt at, teaching or portraying a story about the value of human-made art in a world that is increasingly becoming AI-driven. And I'm very curious to see how this plays out, especially considering he had a very different depiction of AI in the likes of Pluto, but that didn't cover generative AI. So this is going to be pretty interesting, and I'm curious to see how exactly this plays out. He's going to be serializing this and Asadora at the same time. So who knows if we'll see the end of either.
There's no possible way that this goes in any way you expect it to.
Yeah.
I can only think behind the wheel of anyone else, maybe I can understand why this might be like okay, listen, generative AI is taken away from art. I know that's not going to be the case here. He's going to come up with something. There's always something I can't predict with this guy. And writing Asadora sounded so normal to me in the first 5 minutes, and I should have known something was wrong. But the kaiju caught me off guard, and now I have to read it. And now I have to sit here because he put on research leave. What is he researching? I don't know. What do you do there? But I have to read 9 volumes to find out. And this manga right here, the last time he wrote 2 manga in the same time, what was it? It was
I guess when he was writing Billy Bat, there was a brief period of time where he was doing Billy Bat and Pluto, and then also Billy Bat and Master Master. So it's been a very long time since he's done 2 manga at once.
So Billy Bat and Pluto, I love both of them. Now they can exactly tell you, if he's done it once, he can do it again.
That he can, yes. So for the last 10 minutes of the panel, typically I conduct a set of audience questions. So the first of these is, which Urasawa work is your favorite and why? Yeah, go ahead. You have the mic's all yours.
Yeah.
The watch, is that for what, 999?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm doing a double watch thing right now.
Nice.
I'm glad to see that.
Thank you. I bought it earlier at like the artist venue.
That's
Yeah, but anyway, I don't think it's relevant. My personal favorite is Billy Bat.
okay.
I
Yeah,
think
valid.
that
So valid.
it's definitely not the one I would recommend for someone to start with.
Mhm.
But everything it hits, everywhere it goes, every time, even if it feels kind of irrelevant, sometimes you kind of even feels like kind of just losing it, like it doesn't know where it's going. Everything like completes itself in a way that's so satisfying and thematically relevant to everything it's building up to. At the end of the day, I felt like I could not. The highs were so high that every moment our main guy kind of feel like he was losing his luster, made it work near the end. Every single point I was like, why are we doing this to volume? It was like a volume, actually it was like, oh, it's like the best stuff he's ever made. And I also just love any type of fiction that is mixing between, well, fiction and reality, mixing real people, mixing what actually maybe happened, what could have theoretically happened, any kind of conspiracy nonsense. Very, very of my liking. So that's why I like it. But, yeah. And
Yeah, that is totally fair. I mentioned this earlier in the panel. My personal favorite is Monster. It was my first Urasawa work, and I think in part it's because it was the first one that I read that it had the strongest impact on me. I can easily see why anybody would have like a good 6 other Urasawa works above Monster. That is totally valid. He has made so many amazing series. It astounds me how one person can make so many amazing manga. But Monster just had the greatest personal impact on me. And I think it really fundamentally shaped a lot of my own views towards life, towards fiction, and towards the way that I just view others with its profound humanist message. The ending of Monster especially is one that like really changed me.
That entire last volume is like something that is so special.
Ethereal. Ethereal. I like to consider it a masterclass, like essentially a masterwork.
Yeah, well, definitely.
There's something to be said about Monster. I would like to say that it's probably my favorite as well. It's a very close fight. Billy Bat is up there, and unfortunately it is third just because my personal experience with 20th Century Boys, or it was literally life-changing. I think I binged 20th Century Boys, and I read it in like a week, and I didn't see the light of day for almost like 7 days. But the thing about Monster is Monster inherently, I am a big fan of complex mysteries and creative antagonists, but Johan has 2 scenes that I'll never be able to just let him live by because they're so goated. The one is yes, yes. You can't. The finger point to the forehead is unbelievably insane, but the one on the rooftop with the bottle is actually life changing. I watched that happen in real time in the anime, and I had to sit up out of my chair and walk around my room.
Oh my gosh.
No, man, that felt bad to watch. I felt sick to my stomach when he handed him the wine bottle, and he just.
It's so good that you're mentioning like 2 all-timers, and I kept thinking he's gonna mention the $20. I thought you were gonna mention that one instead. Because he has so many good ones.
He is such a
like you can like dive any single volume. You can just have like that scene. Do you remember that scene? That was so good, right?
And this is where 20th Century was good, because you read Monster and you're like, oh, he's outdone himself.
Yeah,
Surely he could never do it again. You read 20th Century Boys, oh, he's outdone himself.
And
Surely.
20th Century Boys is one of those where like every single time you feel like you're getting a hang of what is going on, he throws a curveball, and there is no possible way you can explain like the 3rd time skip.
I think he invented. We gotta go to the next question, but he invented the idea of one more chapter, just one more chapter.
An actual page turner.
What's the next question we got? I'll just stand next to the whiteboard. You got another one?
Yeah, we have.
Oh, my boy. To be honest, this is a hard one. I think I might have to read the kaiju one because you sold me on this.
Yeah.
She might be noted.
Yeah, this is another very difficult one for me to answer because Urasawa is an absolute master at writing characters. Like Grimmer is an incredible character.
So
like
good.
it's not even looking at Dr. Tenma and Johan, who themselves are just incredible. Taichi's another incredible protagonist, and oftentimes a lot of people do argue that Taichi might be the best Urasawa protagonist. Which I can absolutely see the argument for. I guess if I had to pick a favorite, I'm gonna go with Miyuki from Happy. And it's like a lot of people, viewer has this, goody two shoes, just, this, what's the Mary Sue kind of character, right? That's a term that they use to describe someone like Miyuki. But I just find her story so inspirational that you can live through all that shit and just still have the biggest smile on your face, just playing the sport you love and adore, and living your life to, help your loved ones, right? I have a very soft spot for Miyuki. I also love Asa, but Asa's story is nowhere near done yet.
Yeah,
so I can't really go too far with Asa, but Asa's another incredible character.
You're definitely selling me on Happy. I never read that.
Yes, I have never read Happy, and now I have to. I have to read Happy, and I have to read Asadora.
Yeah.
So now I'm stuck with this guy again for another like 3 months.
That's fair.
Yeah. Let's see. What do you think of Urasawa's depiction of real life political and historical figures? You mentioned that a little bit when talking about Billy Bat being your favorite.
Yeah, so my answer, the second one, is the answer to that one. My favorite depiction is Lee Oswald.
Yeah,
That entire like story arc is so like oddly moving.
Mhm.
In a way, only that person could make that story work. How it ties to everything about the fucking Billy Bat as as a story in general, and everything about that character, about him trying to make something out of the hand he was dealt. It's super compelling, in a way that anybody else could have done and make it felt really like unearned or like kind of like misplaced.
Mm-hmm.
But the way he's framing these characters as as a tool set in his like overarching like universe he's building in that specifically Billy Bat. It's so entertaining. It's so impressive.
Yeah, I think he has the strongest use of real life political and historical figures in Billy Bat, since I think that was really the first time in his career that he actually like went and used real people in his manga, where it's like a lot of times in something like Mujibushi, he uses like a gender bent version of a real person, right? So Beverly Duncan being, it's the Billy Bat. I think just it has the strongest depiction for sure. Do you agree?
Yeah.
It
has to be Billy Bat.
It also has the reason why, specifically as a character, the reason why it did not get like translated in English for so long.
It's because of
That one guy, you're like, I don't think
Yeah.
they're gonna publish that for a bit. They had to wait a bit.
Mhm. Yeah. We talked about this a little bit throughout earlier in the panel, but Urasawa's stories often center around the value of art and music. Which of Urasawa's stories has your favorite depiction of the power of art? Is it again Billy Bat?
I want to say so, because I feel like, as I said, it's kind of interwoven in that everything about the narrative. While I kind of felt when I first read 22 Boy that the music thing was kind of really like prevalent in near the second part of that story, not nearly as much as that first one. But hearing Kenzie's song,
Yeah.
this kind of makes me want to go walk that back. Hearing Urasawa sing that one on the actual stage just makes me want to go nah, he's right, you know what he's doing. Exactly. It hits in a way nah, it's earned. It's definitely earned.
It is, yeah. 20th Century Boys the music is just central to the experience.
Yeah, definitely.
It's also true of something like Asadora, where it also, I didn't get to talk about this when I was talking about the premise, but it also extensively goes over the life-changing power of music.
Mhm.
Not so much like art itself, like the way that Billy Bat or Mujibushi do, like with physical art, but it tackles music the way that something like 20th Century Boys did.
Yeah.
So I think my favorite depiction, I think it would definitely be with Billy Bat. It's just because it's just everything about Billy Bat is surrounding the power and life-changing nature of art. So my pick would definitely be Billy Bat.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's the hardest one we have to call. Last one I had to add. It's Billy Bat is an unfair take. If this guy uses, there's no way to go about it. But I will admit, like we all agreed, that song in 20th Century Boys.
Yeah, no, it's very fair.
You hear that and you just life changing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's it. Time to go.
Yeah. Okay.
We
Yep. 1:30, man.
we being picked?
Yep.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Alrighty, looks like it. So we only had a couple of questions left towards the end.
Yeah,
Given that you
yeah.
have, I don't think, have you read, you hadn't read Yawada or Happy,
No, I
right?
did not.
So, okay. So I guess,
I did want to read them eventually, though.
yeah, I guess this would have just been the last important one. It's Urasawa's story centering around family. How do you think him becoming like a father in 1999 affected his storytelling?
Well,
Everything.
Yeah, I know, definitely.
Yeah, it's like-
the way that the children are written in 22 Boys, not framing in any way that's I want to posit him like a glorified weight in any way whatsoever. Kenji as a kid with him, that does not define anything about him for like so long in that story. Just a way to like I don't want to say a problem, like a thing that tells you a lot about him as a character, and not just like that he's a kid around him. And
It's never used
Yes.
as in the narrative.
Exactly.
As a point.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Beautifully.
It's like it tells you so much about him as a character immediately, and about like his story and like the relationship with the people around him and like the type of person he is, and it also builds a really amusing picture of like the type of guy he is, just in general about like what working the place he is while still carrying that responsibility that kind of like is so important to his story.
Glorious.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's-
Thank you for the panel.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
It was a wonderful experience chatting
Yeah.
with you this evening, my friend.
That was the first time I've ever delivered a panel to one person. That was incredible.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I remember last year there was also like the Urasawa panel.
Yeah, I hosted that one last
That was
year.
you? Was there like that was also like at 1 a.m. or something?
No, that was at 10:30 in the morning, and the room was much more full.
Oh, it was that okay.
Yeah,
Am I
so-
confusing with something else?
I have no idea why they put me at 12:30 in the morning, but well, it is what it
It
is.
is
Thank
what
you
it
for
is.
showing up.
Have a wonderful rest of the night, boss. Take care. I shall end the clip here.
Thank you. I hope it actually recorded the whole
Oh,
thing.
buddy, you got an hour on here.